College basketball just drew a line in the sand, and it's going to change more than eligibility rules. This week, the NCAA finally took a public stance after the James Nnaji situation. And what sounds like a clean rule actually creates harder decisions for players, families, and programs. Today, we're breaking down the ruling, the ripple effects, and the human cost that comes with timing decisions in modern basketball. I'm Vincent Cooper, and this is Round Ball Rants. Before we get into this, if you're listening on New Year's Eve, this is the perfect time to jump on board. If you value basketball conversations with context, patience, and honesty, subscribe to Round Ball Rants and follow the show. We're building something here heading into the new year, and if you're looking for a place that respects the game and the people around it, we'd love to have you with us. Last week on this show, we talked about James Nnaji. We talked about his path back to college basketball and why it immediately raised questions that went far beyond one roster spot. This week, the NCAA answered those questions, publicly, clearly, and without room for interpretation. NCAA President Charlie Baker came out and said it plainly, quote, "Any player who has signed an NBA contract, whether it's a standard deal or a two-way contract, is not eligible to play NCAA basketball," end quote. That's the rule. No footnotes. No loopholes. No, we'll see how it plays out. Signed means ineligible. And the timing of that statement is not an accident. Because when James Nnaji was cleared to play college basketball, the conversations shifted fast. Not just amongst fans, but among coaches, administrators, agents, and front offices. The question stopped being, is this allowed? And it became, how far does this go? Could drafted players come back? Could fringe NBA guys return? Could two-way players reconsider college instead? That uncertainty is what forced the NCAA to speak. Not to explain James Nnaji, but to prevent the next 5 cases. The crucial distinction, drafted versus signed. Here's the most important part of this entire debate, and it's where confusion lives. Being drafted does not automatically end college eligibility. Signing an NBA contract does. You can be drafted and still be eligible. You can declare, test the waters, work out for teams, and still come back. You can even play professionally overseas and retain eligibility under certain conditions. But once you sign with the NBA, that door closes. That's the line the NCAA is protecting. James Nnaji never signed an NBA contract. That's it. No conspiracy, no exception carved out just for him. Under the current rules, he met the criteria. And that's what made his situation uncomfortable, because it exposed how narrow the NCAA's remaining authority actually is. This isn't about morality, it's about control. Let's strip the emotion out of this for a moment. The NCAA isn't drawing this line because college basketball is suddenly about purity. We're long past that. Players earn NIL money. They have agents. They negotiate deals. They build brands. That's not amateurism. So why is an NBA contract the hard stop? Because it's one place that the NCAA loses jurisdiction. Once a player signs into the NBA ecosystem, the NCAA has no leverage left. An NBA contract, it isn't just a paycheck. It's a legal commitment into a separate governing system. Different rules, different labor structure, different protections. The NCAA can coexist with NIL. They can tolerate international pro experience. They can manage gray areas, but they cannot coexist with signed NBA players. That's not philosophical. It's structural. This ruling won't stop players from exploring options. It will change how they explore them. Agents will slow negotiations. Players will delay signatures. Drafted prospects will keep flexibility as long as possible. College basketball becomes a strategic option, not a fallback. and schools will be more aggressive about identifying players who still technically qualify. And this statement doesn't end the conversation. It just tells everyone where the boundary is, for now. And in modern college basketball, boundaries don't disappear. They get challenged again and again. The NCAA didn't shut the door. They just made it very clear which handle you're not allowed to touch. Before we get into how this ruling changes decision making across the sport, let's take a quick pause with our friends over at Dubby, because a lot of what we talked about today comes down to energy, how you manage it, where you spend it, and when you protect it. That's why I partner with Dubby. No sugar crashes, no artificial nonsense, just clean energy that helps you stay locked in, whether you're breaking down film, getting a workout in, or trying to stay sharp late at night. If you ever felt the traditional energy drinks take more than they give, Dubby's built differently. You can check them out at dubby.gg, and if you decide to try it, use the code Round Ball Rants to support the show. Alright, let's get back into it. Now that the NCAA has drawn its line, the real story isn't the rule itself, it's how everyone else adjusts to it. Because college basketball doesn't stop evolving just because the NCAA says this is final. It evolves around it. This ruling shifts draft strategy, quietly but permanently. For fringe prospects, for second round picks, for international players. Anyone who lives in that space between NBA ready and NBA adjacent. They now have to think differently. Because the goal is no longer just to get drafted. The goal is to stay flexible for as long as possible. That means declaring without signing, testing the market without committing, preserving college eligibility as leverage. Agents become the real power brokers. This is where agents matter more than ever. The decision isn't just should I go pro, it's when do I sign, because the signature is the kill switch. Once that pen hits paper, the NCAA option disappears. So agents will delay contracts, push workouts without deals, keep players unsigned longer than ever, not because they're indecisive, but because flexibility is now currency. And college basketball is no longer just a development stage. It's a holding space. A space where players can stay visible, stay competitive, stay paid through NIL, and without locking themselves out of the NBA. That's a massive shift. College isn't competing with the NBA. It's competing with uncertainty. And this is where things get especially interesting. International players already operate under different assumptions. Many of them play professionally as teenagers. Many earn money before they're draft eligible. And the NCAA has shown it's willing to evaluate those cases with discretion. That means international prospects will continue to test the limits, as long as they avoid one thing: signing an NBA contract. Expect more players to take non-NBA professional routes, then re-enter college basketball with eligibility intact. And this is where the G League fits, and it doesn't. The G League sits in the middle of all of this. If you sign an NBA two-way contract, you're done. But if you play professionally without NBA paperwork, you still might have a path back. That distinction matters. And it's why the NCAA focused specifically on NBA contracts, not professional basketball as a whole. They're not policing basketball. They're policing affiliation. Some people hear this and they think that college basketball is headed for chaos. It's not. It's headed for sophistication. Players will be smarter. Agents will be more precise. Schools will recruit differently. The mistakes will happen earlier, not louder. And the players who understand the system, they'll gain the real advantage. And here's the gamble that the NCAA is making. That clarity will discourage challenges. That a hard rule will prevent lawsuits. That a bright line will reduce the pressure. History suggests otherwise. Because clarity doesn't stop ambition. It just tells people where to push. The NCAA didn't end the debate. They changed the math. And in college basketball right now, the smartest players aren't choosing sides, they're choosing timing. When we talk about rules, contracts, and eligibility, it's easy to forget who actually carries the weight of all of this. Because it's not the NCAA, and it's not the NBA, and it's definitely not the agents. It's the players. And more often than not, their families. Most of the players affected by this rule aren't stars. They're not lottery locks. They're not guaranteed contracts. They're 18, 19, 20 years old, standing in the most uncertain stretch of their lives. One signature can change everything, or close a door that they didn't realize they still needed. From the outside, this all gets framed as opportunity. He chose to go pro. He chose to sign. He chose his path. But choice isn't always freedom. Sometimes it's pressure with a deadline. Pressure from financial need, family expectations, fear of missing the window. Advice that sounds confident, but it isn't guaranteed. What families are really weighing. And for a lot of families, this isn't about legacy. It's about stability, healthcare, housing, helping siblings, changing circumstances. So when a contract is offered, even a small one, it doesn't feel optional. It feels responsible. And the NCAA rule doesn't live in that reality. And this is where timing becomes everything. Not talent, not effort, not development. Timing. Sign too early and you lose flexibility. Wait too long and the opportunity disappears. There's no rewind button and there's no safety net once eligibility is gone. We track minutes. We track efficiency. We track mock drafts. We don't track stress. We don't track sleepless nights. We don't track family meetings. We don't track the fear of making the wrong decision. But those are real. And they show up long before a player ever steps on the floor. And on paper, the NCAA rule is clear. Signed NBA contract equals ineligible. But real life doesn't move in straight lines. Players don't mature on a schedule. Development isn't linear. Confidence doesn't arrive all at once. And yet the system demands final answers from people still figuring themselves out. The sport has modernized. The money has modernized. The exposure has modernized. But the emotional infrastructure, it hasn't. We've built a system that assumes certainty from people living in uncertainty. And then we act surprised when those decisions don't age well. And this isn't about blaming anyone. It's about acknowledging the reality of the situation. Because the next James Nnaji won't just test the rules. It'll test people. And the quieter those pressures stay, the heavier that they become. The rule is clear, but the process isn't. And until we talk honestly about what these decisions actually cost, we'll keep pretending that the hardest part is the signature. It's not. It's living with it. If there's one thing that this episode keeps coming back to, it's timing. Not talent, not effort, not ambition, timing. Because life, just like basketball, doesn't always give you certainty before it asks you to decide. Sometimes the rule comes first. Sometimes the pressure comes first. And sometimes the opportunity shows up before you feel ready for it. We talked about the NCAA drawing a hard line. We talked about players and agents adjusting around that line. And we talked about the weight that lands on young people and families when those decisions stop being theoretical. What keeps standing out to me is this. Once a door closes, it doesn't care how confident you felt when you shut it. We live in a world that treats patience like hesitation. If you don't move fast, you're falling behind. If you wait, you missed your window. If you pause, you weren't serious enough. But that's not true. Waiting isn't weakness. Sometimes it's discipline. Sometimes It's self-trust. Sometimes it's the quiet strength of saying, I don't need to decide this today. That's true for players deciding when to sign. It's true for the families weighing stability against possibility. And it's true for anyone trying to build something meaningful without burning everything else down in the process. Not every opportunity has to be accepted immediately. Not every door has to be kicked open. Some doors are meant to be tested first. And if you're listening to this and you're feeling pressure to choose, pressure to commit, pressure to rush, hear this clearly. You're allowed to protect your timing. You're allowed to gather information. You're allowed to wait for clarity. You're allowed to move at a pace that lets you live with the outcome. Because the hardest part of any decision isn't making it, it's living with it. And patience doesn't guarantee the right outcome, but it does give you a fighting chance to make a decision you can stand on. So whether you're a player, a parent, or someone just trying to figure it out what's next, remember this. Protect your timing. Once it's gone, you don't get it back. I'm Vincent Cooper. This was Round Ball Rants. Thank you for spending this time with me, and remember, it's not just basketball, it's therapy with a bounce.